Testing, testing, just testing to see the volume real quick. Alright guys, I'm just gonna give it 3 more minutes to see if anyone else wants to join, and then we will go ahead and get started. So the way that this is gonna work, just to keep it a little organized, if you guys can, everybody's gonna get one ticker that we'll start off with, just so you know it gives everybody a chance to get the ticker that they want done, and then if we have some time left, we'll go from there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look for some short-term setups. I'm gonna show you guys what I would look for in terms of short-term setups, and then what I'll be looking for in terms of a long setup, in case, I mean, whatever you guys want, and then we'll go from there. So I'll give it 1 more minute, and we'll just get started. I do have a list from a couple people, going over those things as well. And then this video will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube once it is complete. And then we'll be able to, if you want to go back and look at it prior to tomorrow, whenever you're doing your charting, whether you do it now, whether you do it later, and you want to go back and get that information, it's all going to be there for you guys. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get this show on the road. So this chart that I have up here, by the way, I didn't want to create a blank chart, so I wanted to be able to go from somewhere where I have a little bit of information, but essentially it's going to be blank to a certain extent with the levels and whatnot, because this is not my charted stuff. So that way you guys will be able to have it live charted. So starting off with Tesla, what I always like to do is, majority of the people who have taken my class know I'm looking at the 15-minute and I'm starting to look at my 30 minutes for the larger picture, right? One thing I'm noticing for Tesla right away here is that based off of, oops, do not want to change that. Go ahead and put that back. Based off of the 15-minute chart off of Tesla, I see that we did have a nice uptrend here, right? We can see that our EMA was ridden all the way. You did have some wicks below it, but not necessarily any follow-throughs below it, right? We can see that there's a nice trajectory upward trend here. I'm sure if I were to take this here, we were able to find somewhat of a decent line. Let's see what's cleaner. I would say something like this. Let me see if the 30-minute looks cleaner or not. Depending on where you want to grab your peak from, whether it's from the complete bottom here or not, you can see that you do have a trend line to a certain extent that was or is being ridden now. The ones that are following the price action a little bit closer, as you can see, is being tested here. So what I'm noticing here right away is that based off of the 30-minute here, there was a peak that we peaked on here and we rejected, right? Now we are below that level. That level looks to be, let me see if I can get the peak exact just so that we have a better number there. Right there. There's one right there, and there's another one over here that I'm noticing, right? This is is just based off the 30-minute here. We're just looking at the price action last couple of weeks for Tesla here. Okay, I wasn't able to get it exactly to the top, but you can see that there are two levels here, right? So when the levels are this close to each other, I would say I would consider it a zone to a certain extent. Now, if it had held that zone, I would be looking to go long on Tesla one more time, right? Just based off of what we have here. So what I see on Tesla is now that we have broken below that area that I was referring to there, and we are testing this trend over here, the EMA trend based off of the 30-minute here. I believe that's a 200 EMA there. I see that I also have a fib level here, and that we also have another volume level right here. So volume shelf around this area. Now, whether you want to use the volume shelf for confirmation for the downside, you can, which I would say 192.89 seems to be a good level. If you want to wait for that area, or if you want to be a little bit risky, you can look to take the trade, I would say below 195.74 if you are trying to target a test of that trend line. Now, taking a look at everything else, we see that Tesla is still overall in a bullish trend. All that I can see so far for the downside is that my short-term trend has changed, right? If I go ahead and I take the peak from up here, take the trend line, I'm going to draw this downwards, I can see that I have a little bit of trend line that has been respected to the downside, right? Now I can use this trend line to indicate when I want to get back into the upside here. As we can see that Tesla line that we drew, the trend line that we drew from back in the previous low over there, it is coming in close here. Right? There's a big move that is going to occur once Tesla does decide to pick a direction based off of these lines that we have drawn. Now, whether you want to play that rejection of this trend line to the downside, you can, or whether you want to play that to the upside. Two good things to notice. If I go to Tesla's larger time frames to take a look at what's going on in the larger scope of things, I'm noticing that there is a cup formation here, right? So what that is telling me is to watch for Tesla to possibly create a handle formation here, holding that trend line and going for a breakout, right? If Tesla were to break this level here that I have marked here, 215, you can see that Tesla will most likely have a nice push back up to, if we go ahead and chart our levels here, the peak that we rejected off of here, 223 is a possible point that you can use as a potential price target. Now, whether you want to have a little bit better of a price target, you can use the low from that day over there. You see that there's another zone created here as well to watch for. And then we'll go ahead and take some of these peaks over here just so we have a little bit more levels to look at here. Let's go ahead and mark these over here because these were important points of rejection where Tesla rejected and continued downwards, right? So we want to have these levels charted. So that way we know that these are going to be some important levels to look out for. I'm unable to get that one. Let me try to see if I can zoom in a little bit quicker here. So essentially, if Tesla were to break out of that 215, I would target these areas up here for potential price targets. I would use the downtrend in the short term, right here, the trend line that I've drawn, as a potential confirmation for that upward trajectory point. Now, you can also use the trend line over here that we have drawn, right, based off that 30-minute, as a potential point of interest area as well. You don't just want to get into it right away because as we can see that it is in that short-term downtrend, right? We want to wait for our confirmation. I'm noticing that the MACD and the RSI are looking like they want to go, but they haven't confirmed yet, right? We're seeing that there's a nice little bear flag establishing here. You can watch that 197.87 fib level for a potential entry point, or I would use, again, the break of that trend line for your confirmation. 38.2% fib levels and your 61.8% fib levels are pretty key ones to keep in mind, so take a note of these levels as well to watch for potential entry points. Let me see on the larger grand scheme of things. Yeah, Tesla is in an upward trajectory point, right? There is an uptrend that has been established. It was broken around here. So you want to try and stick with the trend. The trend is your friend. So in my opinion, what do I see Tesla doing? It is in a bullish trend, as we said, so I expect it to try and form that cup and handle that it's trying to create over here. If you guys can see that, there's a nice cup formation here. I believe the handle would be around here, and then watch for that breakout around here. Now, obviously, we can have that trend shift again as well, so keep an eye on the trend line that has been drawn. It will help you establish a point of interest to go for the downside. So you want to see if you can coincide that with some levels. Let me see if I can find a good level for the downside. I like this one over here, which is coinciding with my 61.8% fib level, 182.35. We can also see that our larger trend based off of the 2-hour chart is within that area, and it is relatively close to that that trend line as well. So that those would be your levels for Tesla to watch. Did anyone have any questions in regards to Tesla or anything like that, or something you want me to go more in depth on? Just let me know in the live chat. If not, we will go ahead and try to move on to the next one. Let me see if I missed anything on Tesla, by the way. I just want to, always a good idea to take a look at the larger charts if that's what you're looking for. That cup and handle formation is what I think most likely is going to happen based off of how the chart is looking at the moment. Ooh, okay. Something very important here as well. So if you see that level that I gave you guys, 182.50 level, right? That is also below the EMA 200 for Tesla on the 8-hour, which is very important because now that Tesla has broken up above it, it's in that uptrend that I was mentioning earlier, right? You want to watch for it to maintain above it and see if it can ride that trend out to that upside for those potential levels that we have given right there, the ones that we have highlighted right there. And we see that last time that Tesla broke down below it, while it over here it ended up retaining, and let me see what level it held here. It held the level that it previously rejected off of over there, or that area pretty close to it roughly, I would say so, and stayed back above it. And then when it broke back below, and we see that once it broke that level that we used that it had bounced off of previously and rejected off of previously here, Tesla had a nice breakdown and rode that EMA, which is one of my favorite trends to watch, is the EMA trend, all the way down, continued its downtrend until it broke above it over here. So that level, very careful, or very key level to watch for, because that is also coinciding with the EMA 200 area on the 8-hour. And let me just double check the daily and take a look at something. Ooh, okay. So the 215 level I gave you guys, the reason that that's a very good level as well to watch for, as you can see here, that 200 EMA on the daily is around that level. So very, very important level to watch for the breakout on that. You get a breakout confirmation on that. You just want to see that it holds. So as I can see on the daily as well, the daily seems to be setting up for a squeeze to the downside here. It wants to converge, but again, we want to wait for that full confirmation for Tesla. So my biggest recommendation for Tesla whenever you're playing it is really try and wait for that confirmation, because Tesla in the most last 1 to 2 years has become more of a retail stock, so it's being moved a little bit differently than, let's say, Apple or your other larger blue caps and big chip stocks. So that concludes Tesla. If you guys have any questions for Tesla, message in the YouTube chat, please. If not, we'll go ahead and move on to Meta. Give it a second or a minute for if anyone has any questions to type them up. Also, if you guys can, let me know if you guys can hear everything clearly and are able to see everything clearly as well. Okay, if not, alright, we'll go on to Meta next. Oops. Alright, Meta. Let's take a look. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it for the response. Okay, based off of the 15 minutes so far, all I see is that there was a bull flag here that has broken below this level. Is your confirmation for that bear flag? We go ahead and take a look at the larger picture here. Larger bear flag was also broken. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and identify where that bear flag broke, so I have an upside level to watch for. I'm noticing that that upside level, is it coinciding with my 61? No, it's not. 182.89 is that.
level. We're below the EMAs here. We're below the EMA 200, and then also below that 38.2 fib level. Take a look at the hourlies. Ooh. EMA trend riding to the downside here. So that EMA 200 here, very important to keep an eye on that. Just double check some things. Want to make sure I'm looking at everything here. Okay, so also a cup formation here, which broke out a little bit but had a false breakout for it. Doesn't mean that the handle can't still be formed. The handle can still form. 164-ish area looks to be. Alright, let me mark some levels up here so that way we have some levels to work with. I'm gonna take, do I have that level? Yep, I do. Take the low from here that we rejected off of. That level coincides, so the level that I was talking about there, look how well it's being respected here. So that's a good level. I'm gonna keep that one. Add one around here. And let me see, do I have a level there? Yes, I do. 174 area, good. Gonna mark this one as well, despite it wicking. Still looks like a good level, was respected decently here. And let me see if I can get some more. Let's grab the low of that one. Let's also grab a little wick here so then we can have a little zone in case. And I'm gonna use the low from here, and this should be good enough, yeah. Let's mark this level up here as well. Good rejection point there, respected pretty well there. I see that once it broke out from there, it had a nice little breakout. That level works. That level works. Okay, perfect. All right, so full flag break on Meta over here. We see that the short-term trend has broken down, and what I would expect for Meta is you would need Meta to hold roughly for continuation of the upside. I would say you would need Meta to, a point of interest to watch for is this zone over here, 162.40 to 169. If this holds, you have a potential for that upside over there. If this breaks, I would watch for a push down to this level over here, your 38.2% fib level, and then a break of that to your next level over here. The larger trend is a little bit lower on Meta. Granted, I am looking at the 4-hour there, so that's a little bit too large. I don't want to look at that. Let's take a look at some things here. Okay, a point of interest that I'm liking for Meta is, yeah, that 169 area. I think this zone is going to be very, very crucial to watch for a bounce. We were having some your EMA 200s on some charts are there. You're having your trends are the larger trend is there on the 2-hour chart. On the 4-hour chart, I don't really have anything, and on the 5-hour chart, we see that that larger trend or that medium trend is also below that area, so pretty relatively close. So I would consider that area as a point of interest to watch for a bounce. Also, remember that 38.2% fib levels and those 61.8% fib levels are good ones to watch for. I personally don't like the setup on Meta currently because I would have taken, looking at this, if I were to be swinging it, I would have taken shorts below that one, either that 176.11 level or of that bear flag break, which obviously has already happened, so you can't really watch for that anymore. Which is why I don't like the setup on Meta currently. To get into anything on Meta right now, I would want to wait for those point of interest area that I mentioned, personally speaking. Um, it's not relatively clean, but let's see if this could be potentially used. Uh, Not 100% clean, so I don't know how well this one will work out, but if you draw a trend line from the 1-hour, let me see how well it's respected on 30-minute. Yeah, you could use this as helping you find a potential area of interest for the back to that upside. What I would be looking for as my confirmation for that upside, you want that bear flag break that it's starting to form on that larger time frame over there. I would either watch. You could use the 178.63 level for a potential push back up to that breakdown level for that bear flag. Um, but I would honestly wait for the upside above, until Meta's back above 182.82 Again, I don't like the setup on meta currently speaking. That's just my personal opinion. Um, because it's not really in a point of interest for me based off of the chart so far. Let me see if I'm missing anything else. Meta also same thing with Meta, that downtrend that Meta was holding for a while. Many stocks it's the same thing obviously. Many large name stocks is that they have broken back above their EMA 200s, which is something to keep in mind. So you notice over here that there is a wall that's also establishing around that EMA 200 point, and we have a 38.2% fib level around 155.5 for Meta, right? Meta is also in a gap, which I just noticed. I didn't pull up the daily chart earlier, so, and yeah, that gap is coinciding with that level as well. So 155.5 is somewhere that I would keep an eye for Meta as well. At that point, you're below your EMA 200. You've broken the short-term trend. You're going to be testing those larger trends. Those might catch up to around here by the time Meta gets there, depending on how long this takes and if Meta ends up getting there. But oh, Meta has just a nice setup to watch for on that point of interest zone that I showed you guys earlier, that 172.40, 169 area. If Meta breaks that area, I can see this testing that EMA 200 on the daily, or even that 38.2% fib level. So watch those areas for point of interest for a potential short on Meta, but this would be a long play. I mean, this is the daily chart that we're looking at here, so something to keep in mind there. But based off of the short-term time frames, yeah, I'm not liking anything on Meta besides downside for the test of that potential area. And then from there, I would watch for a potential bounce or confirmation for further downside. But yeah, that bull flag break would have been a really good good trade to take. As soon as it broke this level here, 182.60 or 182.89. Justin, does that answer any questions that you had for Meta? If not, let me know. If you want to, is there something specific that you're looking for? I'm just charting this based off of, whatever I see on it, and giving that as quick as possible. Like if you guys have something specific that you're looking for, like you want confirmation areas for upside or for downside within the ticker that you're asking me for, just go ahead and put that also in your suggested ticker, so that way I have something that I can kind of, I guess, personalize or trying to give you a strategy slash plan for. No problem. All right, I will go ahead and do IWM next. So one thing to keep in mind about IWM is that scalping IWM can be a little risky depending on what contracts you pick. So you have to be very careful when you're picking your contracts for IWM, because they do move pretty fast and they do have some wild Greeks on some of them. Okay, first things first, I'm going to draw my trend line from here. I'm noticing that there is something. Yeah, we had a false breakout there, but that's fine because it didn't close above it. You're not always going to have clean respects of things, right? Which is why it's important to paying attention to other things as well. Let's go ahead and get some levels in for IWM. So first things first, I want that level that we rejected off of over here. It's a small, tight zone, but I'm just going to keep a single level there. Go ahead and grab these levels. I want this rejection up here. I want this rejection over here. Come on. I want the hold over here to notice that there's a small zone there. The rejection over here was respected pretty decently there from what I can see. I want this one. I think looks better, but let's see. Can I get it? Nope, I can't. You know what? That's a fine spot to use. It's not 100% great, but I'm gonna use that one. I have a level already there around the 190 area. I want to catch where we bounce from here. Looks like an area of interest to watch for. Some small rejection spots here. So what I like to do is when my levels are so close to each other, I just consider them a zone at that point, right? I'm looking at it as a zone. So wait for we get stuck in the zone. I wait for a break of either side of that zone. Go ahead and grab that there, and this peak here as well that we rejected off of gives me. I don't like how close these levels are. These would be. I'd use these more so as intraday levels. So I'll tell you guys which ones I like better as better important key levels to watch for. Yeah, this one here. Here. By the time this plays out, this should catch up with the EMA 200 here, so I'm going to use that line. That is 185.31. That is a key level to watch for, so make sure you have that one highlighted. Let's take a look that we're not missing anything else from previous time periods. Noticing that there is a level there. Do I like that one? Yeah, that's not a bad level at all. Good. If the slow one over here was respected or not to a certain extent. So here's one thing about IWM as well is that there are a lot of levels with IWM and with a lot of tickers that you have to realize that are going to be your intraday levels and that are going to be your more important levels, your key levels. So I like to keep my things color coded when I do my charting for certain tickers. So I would recommend doing that when you are whenever you are charting. Now let's take a look at the larger time frames and see if there is anything. Okay, bull flag break was here. Go ahead and mark that as well. That's fine with me. Oh, whoops. So, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of tickers broke out above their EMA 200s on the daily chart. Um, so the thing to watch for is whether they hold this breakout or whether they end up having a false breakout on them. So that's something to keep in mind. Your EMA 200 is a good indication of how the stock has been doing over the past 200 days. If you guys did not know that. Oh, nothing clean there. I would have used something like this one over here. Or let's see if this one was better. Sometimes you have clean ones, sometimes you don't. If you don't want to force them. They're not gonna work when they're not relatively clean. So let's take a look at IWM now and break down what we have for IWM. I don't know why that's not control Zing. Weird. There we go. Okay, so let's break down for IWM what we have over here based off of our levels, right? So similar thing with IWM with a lot. Yeah, Justin, I'll go ahead and do that after for you. So something I'm noticing with IWM is that 38.2% fib level is at the 188.21 area, right? And I have a level at 190.31. Now, you can use that 190.31 level as a point of interest area to either watch for a breakdown, but the problem is that 188.21, which again your 38.2% fib levels and your 61.8% fib levels are going to be your more important levels to watch for, right? The problem here is that this is a potential area for a bounce. So I don't like the setup here at the moment based off of what I'm looking at here. I would want to watch for a retest of this trend line that I have drawn here, which looks to be good at the 191.65 area. And based off of that, if we break up there, I'm going to look for a breakout there for my next key areas that I have highlighted. Depending on how you're trying to trade this, if you're trying to do your scalps or whatever you're trying to do your swings and whatnot, something to watch for is a rejection of that area. Then you have your potential interest area of that 190.76, right? Watch for a break of that or 190.14 if you want to be a little bit safer, and then go ahead and target that EMA 200 on that 8 hour that we were, or sorry, on that, which one was that? That was the 2 hour, sorry. Yeah, the 2 hour is what you can do. Or what you can wait for is a point of interest that I like personally based off of this. Let's take a look. Double check that it is a good area. Okay. Yeah, I'm more interested in this 187 area. Now, the reason I'm more interested in this 187 area is because at that point we're going to be below our 2 hour 200 EMA. We're going to be below um, our 4 hour large trend. This area over here, this large these larger blue EMA clouds that you see, this is the larger trend. So what you can expect when the larger trend is being tested, that it's going to be a stronger trend because again, it's the larger trend. And at that point, we will be below that 61.8% fib level, which I again mentioned the 61.8s and your 38.2s, your important ones on that 8 hour. So I like below 187 for potential test of that, um, the levels that we have marked, as well as that EMA 200. Or sorry, the levels that we have marked, because we'll be below that EMA 200. So 185.31. Let's see if we can find some more target levels below that. What do I see here? That might be a little bit too low, but we are on the larger time frames here. We're not looking at this from a scalping perspective right now. So what was that? 182.38 as another potential target area. This one was respected pretty well here. Could see some respect of it here. Nice bounces off of it there. Once it broke out from here, nice push up from it. A little false there, but that's okay. You're not always going to get them 100%. Yeah, I'd use that level. That's a nice level. If you want it to be a little bit tighter and you want a little bit better of a level, or a little bit more closer of a level, let's see what potential ones you can use. I don't really like this one. Let's see. 180, yeah, around something around here. 183. 87 is another one that you can use. Good range there. IWM contracts will move a decent amount within that area. And then let me just double check one more thing I wanted to see before we do move on from here. I'm just trying to see. Trend lines are always good to have, so if you can find one that works and looks good, they are good to use. Now I'm gonna go and double check this within the 8 hour and see that was just a wick. Okay, good. I like that. I like this trend line. Good trend line to use. Let's see if it coincides with any of the levels that we have. So let's say IWM takes a little bit of time, blah blah blah. Tests around here, you get the break of it. No, that's not like it's too far away at the moment to use, but good to have in mind that that's going to be a strong area for the IWM. See if it coincides with anything. Probably something on the weekly. Yeah, it's going to end up coinciding with that 200 EMA on the weekly later on. But this might be another good target area to use. We got the weekly rejection point over here, so a strong level there to use. And that should be good for IWM in terms of the levels that you want to be using. These some intraday levels to have. But that 187 area to that one, let me double check what that zone was just to I don't say it wrong. It was, yeah, the 187 area to that 186 zone that we had created is something that I would suggest to watch for, mainly that 187 level, mainly because again we're going to be below that EMA 200 and we're going to be below the larger trend on that 4 hour and that 2 hour. So in that case, you could expect the other EMA 200 area to be tested. And the targets that we have drawn are right there. Potential target points for you guys: 185.31 for the downside, 183.87. There is a wall here at 183.08. If you want that, I won't mark that. I'll leave it as it is because this will change over time as time goes. Obviously, the indicator would be updated. And then 182.38. Now, upside wise, again, that trend line that we drew from there, that short term one, very good to use, and that 192.2 level is a decent spot, or 194. So the level that we have marked over here, I'm noticing that there is a wall there. It's coinciding with some of our fib levels that we have, and that'll give me a nice confirmation because I'll be back above all the trends over here, and we'll see if that trend will continue to go. can see right now is that short-term trend did change, and that medium trend is starting to lose momentum, right? So keep in mind, just watch those areas for those potential entries for the downside, and watch this area up here for the potential entry for the upside. And I think that should cover IWM. I don't want to pronounce your name wrong, so I apologize in advance if I do. Saravanan, if you can let me know if that covers everything for IWM, or if you need a little bit more explanation, just let me know within the next like 15 seconds, so then we can go ahead and move on to the next one. And again, if there's something specific you're looking for, let me know so that way I can help create, a game plan of sorts for you for that specific ticker. And keep in mind, this will be saved and uploaded to YouTube as soon as it's done, so you can go back and take the things that you want from there and use those accordingly. No problem, of course, no problem. So, a good thing to keep in mind when you guys are looking for, swings or scalps or whatever you guys are trying to do is create a plan. You notice how we just went through really quickly, identified areas of interest that we want to watch for, and then we wait and be patient. Let the trades come to us by allowing us, to by allowing ourselves to wait until our point of interest area is tested or whatnot, and then we execute the plan accordingly, right? You want to have your plan in place prior to entering the trade. You do not want to be creating your plan while you're in the trade. It makes no sense to do that. Yeah, Tim, I definitely recommend supporting Dogecoin long, 110%. Guys, I'm joking. Tim's trolling. We don't do crypto here, buddy. Sorry, Tim. Justin, what was your question for Google? Let's go ahead and let's pull Google up here. I love trading Google. Google is one of the great tickers out there that has some nice contract movement and whatnot on it. I think I did play Google puts to the downside. Actually, no, I did not play those this week, if I remember correctly. So Google, if you guys noticed last week, had a -4% day, maybe a little bit larger than that due to its failure at the presentation for its AI, which ended up costing it about $100 billion, and its cap lost. So that was the reason that Google fell. Now, let's go ahead and first things first, get our Google levels charted. So what levels do I want to use here on Google? I see a couple that I like. I want the bottom there. I want the peak bottom here if I can get it. Nope, I gotta zoom in a little bit. Let's see, sometimes TradingView is a little bit wonky with it, but let's go ahead and grab that level there. I want this level here, this rejection over there. I want to grab also this as a microtrend area. This wick, despite it being a wick, I do want to grab it. Let me see, and create that zone as I mentioned earlier. And then let's go ahead and switch to a little bit larger time frames and see if there's anything key. Ooh, okay. So remember how I mentioned a lot of things broke above their EMA 200? One thing to notice is that Google is actually below it, right? And that most likely has to do with that news that came out for Google in regards to their AI. I want to be using. I like this area here, so it gives us a level around that EMA 200. So one thing I mentioned last week, if I remember, for Google was to watch that break below 100. And I mean, I remember that because it's just a level, when you're charting things for a while, you start to remember the levels for those things. So Google below 100 was a nice, easy trade to that 98.26 area that I have here. I'm pretty sure it coincides with the level that I have on my normal chart as well. But one thing to watch for is Google is starting to create a base here, a nice bear flag formation on the 8 and the 4 hour. So how are we going to use this to try and figure out a trade, right? first things first. Well, let's get our levels in so that way we have things to watch for and potential points of interest, right? So I'm noticing that this level here, 9441, or whether you want to use the fib level, I would rather use the level that I have charted than the fib level. And then let me get an upside level as well, one that looks slightly clean. So there's one here that I like. And then let me double check if this one was a decent one or not. Yeah, this one could be used here. So, oops. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to identify some levels for the bear flag, right? In order to give us potential areas of interest for our entries. So what I'm liking here is if Google can get a close below, right? A close below this level here. Whoa, where did that go? What the heck just happened? Interesting. If Google can get a close on the larger time frames below that 9441 area, I do expect to see more downside on this, right? Because at that point that bear flag has been broken and confirmed, the trend has been continuing, and the trend is continuing to ride to whatever the next level may be. Now, I did not chart the next levels below. Sorry, let me go ahead and get those done as well. That way you guys can have some potential target areas. See that there was a gap here, like that one right there. Okay, let me see if there's anything else here. I like that one. So when we're going on our larger time frames, obviously our more important levels there, and then smaller time frames going and getting those less important levels, which I guess you can count as your intraday levels depending on how you want to do it, depending on what you're doing, you're scalping or you're swinging. Double check this one right here and see if that one was a interesting. Yeah, that could be used as well. Okay, so these are the levels I like for Google here. I would be watching that 93.73 area for that downside. If you want that full confirmation, you can wait for the 92.90 area, and you should see a break and test, a test of that 91.75 if that area is tested, in my opinion, once you get that confirmation there. Now, one thing to realize, as I mentioned, is that Google is below its EMA 200, not only on the 8-hour, but on the daily as well. We can see that it had a false breakout above it, rejected it, and ended up coming right back down. And that 61.8% fib level, notice that the levels that we are choosing are near those levels, right? We can see that that area we're using for our point of interest is going to allow us to be below that area and get that confirmation below, right? Which is what we want. We have 94.41, which 94.41, relatively close. 94.45, a couple cents does not make a difference. So once you get that close below there, I would use that as your confirmation for those potential downside levels that we have identified there. For the upside, 99 point, I personally like 100 for Google, whole rounded number. You're below that 38.2% daily fib level for the upside, and if you can get a close above those levels, I would like that for the upside. And then for the upside above 100, you have potential zone here that you can use, 102.21 to 105, 102.59, 104 is your next level there. And then let's see if there's anything major here. Yep, there is. I would use this one right here. And this one coincides really well. Okay, this level I would use as a target for the upside, the 105.69, where I would either watch for a rejection or a potential breakout for that test of that 108.91 high over there. Sorry, let me just read your comment real quick. Drop on Google seems excessive, and it looks like there's support around 93.80. I want to play bounce on it. Thoughts? Okay, 93.80. 93.80, 93.80. Yeah, we do have levels. Our level is pretty close to that 93.80 area that you're mentioning. I'm noticing that the 0% fib level is there, and then 93.73, relatively close to that. So here's the thing: whether you want to time it really depends on how you're playing this, right? If you're swinging this and you're getting some time, you can try and time that as a bottom, right? But I personally don't like timing things. I like to wait for those confirmations, right? So I see it's in a bear flag. It's in that downtrend on the short term, right? In the large term retrospective things, it is also below its trends. So when it's below its trends like that, I personally do not like going against the trend, right? Because chances are that the trend will play out. So I would use those levels that I gave you over here. Um, I personally would be waiting for 100 for upside again on Google. I would not be looking for Google above 100 or below 100 because there's just too much below 100, right? Everything is below that 100 area. We see that our trends are all below that 100 area. We see that, yeah, relatively in almost every time frame that we're looking at. I mean, the weekly at that point, um, yeah. So we're rejecting the larger trend, as you can see here on the weekly, if you want to look at it from the grand scheme of things. And that weekly also looks like it wants to set up for the downside. It's not giving us that confirmation yet. It's not there. The weekly is going to take forever to play out, right? But the daily has already started it. And on the 8 hour, obviously already started as well. So Google's trying to form a base here, and depending on what happens is, you pick your sides. You want to pick the points of interest. So for me, 100 or 99.59 area, I think that's a decent area to watch. 99.5, 99.8 area, still too close to 100. If you want to try and jump that gun a little bit over there, and then that 93.73 or that 94 area, depending on how risky you want to be for the downside, right? I don't like where it is right now because it's just forming its base, right? I'm not going to take a trade here. I'm going to wait till it decides to pick its direction, and then based off of what my chart is and what my plan is, I will go ahead and play that direction. So as you can see, like that 100 area is just such a there's a zone there also that I'm noticing, between that 99.80 and that 100 area. So I personally would wait for back above that for going long on Google. Now whether you're scalping, obviously it's a different story. But in regards to swinging, that's what I would wait for the upside, and the downside, obviously that area that we were mentioning earlier, that 94 or that 93, depending on your risk level. Did that help answer your question a little bit and kind of give you how to play a bounce and where to watch for that bounce, Justin? If not, I can go over that again. So I mean, you can get a bounce here. Yeah, you can. I mean, and you can get that 100 level tested from here, but chances of that are low. I mean, we're below everything, and we haven't broken to a side yet, right? It's still bear flagging. This right here is a bear flag, right? So you want to wait for that confirmation to either side to be able to go ahead and play it. Now, something I also recommend doing, Justin, if you're going to be looking for that, if you're looking at this from a swing perspective, one thing you really need to keep in mind is that volume. Okay, so that flow that's coming in, you want to make sure that the flow is also coinciding with the direction that you are looking for, right? So that way you have that as another form of confirmation if you want to use that. What I'm also noticing here is that the volume for the last couple of days on Google has just been straight selling volume, right? Sorry about the colors here, but purple is basically selling volume, and then gray is going to be buying volume. But what I'm noticing is obviously that the trend for Google in terms of the volume seems to be more bearish, and I mean obviously you can see why it was more bearish. But yeah, Google is definitely one to keep an eye on for potential large moves, especially since it did have that large breakdown the last week. Which is why I try to be careful with swings on certain things, is because swings, we cannot control what happens overnight. The news can affect it, and whether it helps you or whether it hurts your position. Um, it's a pure luck thing, right? The news, unless you have some type of insider information on it. So that's why I stick with scalping, because that you can control what's going on, because it's only throughout the day, right? You have a little bit more control on that. And then that's why I personally like to use profits only for swinging. So that way, in case the swing doesn't end up working out, as long as I risked only a certain amount of my profit, that's all that I lost, and I'm still overall up, right? So just something to keep in mind. I will be watching Google this week. I always watch Google. Same with Tesla. I keep an eye on. Rarely do play it, but when I do play it, it does do what it does. You know, it does what it does. But that should be it for Google. I know that the Super Bowl is starting in 7 minutes. I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time. I hope that this was helpful. Um, if there's anything else that you guys need, if you guys want some, more in-depth explaining, shoot me a DM or tag me in whatever respective Discord you're in, and I don't mind sending personalized type of charting and stuff. Just please keep in mind it will take me some time to get back to people because I do get a lot of DMs. But if this session was helpful for you guys, shoot a like, shoot a subscribe. I'll try to get some sessions out at least twice a month. I want to do it, that way people have um, some sort of game plan, and that way people can try and learn from this a little bit. That's why I post these on YouTube, so that way you guys can go back and take a look and try to, see if you can understand a little bit better. But I'll give it another minute if someone wants to get another thing charted or not. Um, but otherwise, we'll be looking to wrap things up here. Funny thing is, the people that were not gonna make it messaged me the same ticker, so it basically covers it. Killing two birds with one stone, so that's good. Alright, folks, well, thanks for attending. I hope this was helpful to you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday night. And go ahead and enjoy the Super Bowl if that's what you guys are going to be watching. But this concludes this week's session. Oh, Amazon? Okay, yep, I got you. So, I did alert Amazon puts last week, I believe it was. And I was just talking about this with somebody because if we held them, they went about 300%. Let's take a look at Amazon here. Alright, let's get some levels charted for Amazon. I want this dropped here. Let's go ahead and grab that for a nice little zone there. We'll grab this peak over here, or which one? Yeah, this one over here. Let's grab this one over here. I like this one a little bit better, or yeah, I'm gonna use this one over here. I like that level, much cleaner. 99.68. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. The level we bounced off from there. Nope, not a clean one over there. Let me see if I go to the 2 hour if it's cleaner or not. Nope. 8 hour. No. So Amazon seems to have broken its trend line actually that I would have drawn here. Which coincides with, I think that's why I entered this trade actually. I don't remember. Because I have my chart somewhere. I have too many charts, guys. I was trying to see if I could find something that's similar to my setup without things on it, so that way it could be a little bit easier charting it in terms of the levels and stuff. So you guys can see how I chart my levels and whatnot. But I think I entered Amazon based off of the break over here at 101.44, which is why I entered the puts. But what I'm seeing here on Amazon so far, similar story to Google in terms of this, not based off of news that I know, had broken above some of its 4 hour or some of its larger time frame EMA 200s. The perfect rejection on that daily 200. Wow. That's a very clean rejection on that daily 200. Something to keep in mind, the gap over here, which it did pretty much fail, but levels would still be important most likely, so I'm going to go ahead and mark it. I don't know what that is. Let's get rid of that. Just to keep in mind, and then I would mark that as a gap to just remember on your chart. Let's get those levels charted there. So, Amazon, I still think Amazon has a good setup to the downside to at least that 93.87 level. And let me see, did I get a level there? No, I did not. 9387 level. Yeah, there's a wall. There's a wall near that area as well, from what it looks like. And we did. No, there's nothing clean that I like there entirely, but this looks like a potential spot here. Okay. So for Amazon, I like the downside still. What you can do is either you can wait for that confirmation break of 96.23, and if you're scalping this, look for that test of the next level around that 94.54 area. Or 91.52 is going to be your larger next level. Now I'm going to go ahead and get some of those intraday levels so that way we have some targets for scalping as well. Let's grab that one there. Zoom out a little bit, see if there's anything clean here. I like this one here as a potential area as well. Alright, let me see what levels we've got on Amazon now. Yeah, these could be used for intraday, for scalping. Perfect. Okay, so potential zone to watch for here. Break below the zone, you'll get that next level tested there. Oops, I missed one level, sorry. I like this one better. Let me just double check that that one looks good. Yep, looks fine. Potential zone here if you want at 93. Right there. So another potential zone here, and again, I would usually color code these things on your charts if it's too hard for you guys to notice when you're first looking at it at first glance, because you want your charts to be as easy to read as possible, so that way you're able to see and create everything very quickly, right, and efficiently, which is why I recommend color coding everything and putting it according to however you want it. So for Amazon, another nice downside setup play here. I'd be watching for the break, either like I said, of that 97.28er, depending on how you're scalping or depending on how you're swinging, for a test of that low to the 96.23, or another potential spot as an entry, 96.23, that you can use for that next levels. Zone here to watch for 93.92. Let me see if there's anything strong that can help give us a little bit of a, yeah, that 93, yep. So that 93 area that I just mentioned, coinciding with our 61.8% fib level. So that's somewhere where I would watch for a bounce. Break below that, you can expect a push to the larger support on the downside, which I did not chart for you guys here, but let's see what that would be. 93.87. So next major area that I can see, well, 91 is one as well. Small zone here, 91 to 90.68 area. And then, yeah, the larger area support that I would say is around this 89 area over here. As you can see that area was pretty decently respected in terms of for the break to the upside and the break to the, or the hold over here. And then once it did break, you can use that level pretty decently. I like that one. Another level here if you want to make it a little bit more precise, so that way you have a zone, is right here. So that's going to be your 89, 88 areas. Break of that, I would pretty much expect this to go back and attempt to test lows. Let's just mark these areas up so that way we have the rest of it charted as well to a certain extent. And I am on the larger time frames there, so let's get some intraday levels as well. That one there, that's decent, and then use that one there. So here are some levels for Amazon that you guys can use. Let me just double check. Okay, zone here, right there. So remember, when I have levels very close to each other like this 93, 92, 93, 58, just consider it a zone. Just consider it a zone at that point. But some decent areas to watch for Amazon. Remember, zone right there as well. So let's reiterate and go over that. So 97.28 or 96.23, I would watch breaks for that to the downside of 93 area as your next major level, because remember, 93 area is your 61.8% fib level on the larger time frames, your daily. Trend is bearish. We want to stick with the trend if we're doing swings and stuff like that, right? We see that the MACD did have convergence squeezing to the downside. We have RSI clearly pointing to the downside. I really think that that 93.87 point would be tested. Again, depending on whatever happens this week. CPI very big this week and will have a big influence on the market. So we want to keep our point of interest as areas to watch for. Upside wise, Amazon, I like 101.44. Let me see if I can find a little bit more precise level. If you guys want, you can use 99 area. Yeah, I would use 99.65 area, or I would wait for that 101 area so you've cleared out a good amount of those resistances, right? Sometimes when there's too much crap in one area, like for example, all your EMAs, all your trends are coming up to one area, you don't necessarily want to get in on that area. You want to wait for a direction pick based off of that area, whether you break above that area or whether you reject that area and have to the downside. So that's what I would be looking for on Amazon. Again, we did play puts on this, and I'm pretty sure it was based off of that 101 level area break that I played those puts on. But we are below a major area, so that remember that 99.60 area, you can use that as a potential upside, or that 101 area. And I like that 101 area much more. One, because we're now below the trend line that Amazon did create and did respect pretty decently, I would say, from Friday, January the 6th. So break back above that trend line is what I would be watching for the upside. Otherwise, continuation of downside is what I like. So same as that 101 area, if you're watching that for a potential spot for a break up above for upside, you can still watch that spot for a break down and a rejection of that area, right? John, does that help answer your questions in regards to Amazon? Sorry, it looks really bad because, I mean, this is not the chart that I chart on. I don't use fib levels anymore. But I needed something that was similar to my setup so that way you guys can at least have stuff. So please make sure you are color coding your lines so that they look much better than this. And intraday levels, I end up getting rid of some, right? Because if I'm scalping, I'm not looking at the 1 hour chart, right? I'll be looking at the chart like this if I'm scalping, right? And for some reason, TradingView's taken out my levels for some reason, which is weird. But yeah, very weird that my levels are disappearing. I don't know, something's going on with TradingView, I guess. Well, it's not gonna look like this because you're gonna be zoomed in and you're gonna be on a smaller time frame, right? So you're gonna have a little bit more space, as you can see, for things to play out. So I like to keep my scalping and my swinging charts separate for that reason, because sometimes it can get a little mumble jumbled in there and it doesn't get too organized. Because remember, when you want to be scalping and when primarily when you're scalping, you want to be able to read that chart as fast, as efficiently, and as accurately as possible, or as precise and as accurately as possible. So, all right, well. Once again, thank you folks for joining. I hope the session was helpful for you guys. I will try my best to do at least 2 sessions a month so that way you guys can get a little information and some game plan of some sorts and some things to watch for. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend and have fun watching the Super Bowl, and I will catch you guys on Monday. Please keep in mind CPI data this week, so Monday may be a choppy day. Wait for that market news to come out and solidify and bake into the market so that way you have some clear direction. And with that, we'll catch you guys later. Take care, folks. Thanks for joining.